Okay, so we're gonna talk about cadence. And I was new as a triathlete. I actually had no idea what cadence is. All I wanted to do before was that for me to get from point A to point B as fast as I can. All I know at the time was actually the speed, miles per hour. But then as time goes by, I learned more, which is one of the most important things that I would like you to know is actually cadence. Cadence uses the unit of measurement, RPM, or revolutions per minute. You can measure this by using a gadget, or you can also do it manually. I mean, I have had athletes who's telling me like, I don't have cadence monitor. I mean, that's fine. It's okay not to buy, but at least you want to make sure to at least you know what cadence you're in. So how do you count a revolution? Revolution is basically one circle, okay? So one revolution, so it's gonna be like this. So you pedal, all right? So that's one revolution. Now what we want to know is actually how many revolutions per minute. If you're gonna count manually, it's gonna be how many times this pedal here come up. Okay, so let's say this bike, you're actually biking. So it's basically what you wanna find out is like how many times you need come up, okay? So you wanna count how many times within 30 seconds. So you wanna count, for example, 30 seconds start right now. So you count like, let's say we're pedaling, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's say the 30 seconds is done, right? So now, if whatever the number that you have, you want to double it. So let's say within that 30 seconds, so within that 30 seconds, you counted 40 times that I actually completed a circle. So that's 40 times 2, that will be 80. So that means you actually have 80 revolutions per minute. That's your option if you don't have a cadence meter. However, if you have a cadence meter, it's much better to actually just look at your gadget and actually instantaneously you'll be able to know what your cadence is. So that's how you measure the cadence. Cadence is gear dependent. You adjust the gearing on your bike so you can actually get the cadence that you want. Ideally, you would want to hit about 80 to 100 RPM, or if you can actually get it to 110, 120s with some stronger cyclists, they can do that. When you actually focus more on the higher cadence, you use more of your cardiovascular system. This is much more efficient than actually depending on your muscular system. With your muscular system, wherein you depend on, like, for example, heavy gear, it's much harder to recover fast, you know, there's more fatigue, and it's harder to last long. So if you're a triathlete and you want to last long, just for example, let's say, you know, you're half Ironman or a full Ironman, you have a long day to work out, or maybe a back-to-back exercise, you would want to, as much as possible, not to stress much your muscular system and instead be more efficient by depending on your cardiovascular system. And how do we do that? Again, well, adjust your cadence and you'll be able to do that by adjusting your gearing. So, do you know what I mean that you always have to hit 80 and up revolutions per minute? Not really. Because the thing about it, so like for example, when you're working out, when you're doing your training, you gotta hit different energy systems. It doesn't have to always be like less stress in the muscular system and always go for the cardiovascular system, right? So what that means is that, yes, of course, you can go under 80 revolutions per minute, let's say 70 or sometimes 65. The only thing that I need to point out is that when you have a much lower cadence, when I say lower cadence, by feel, that will be more of like slow turning or slow pedaling because it's heavy gear. Sometimes you may need to actually stand up. This happens usually, like for example, when you're climbing in the mountains. Your cadence usually would have to be a little slower or lower cadence. And in order for you to actually pick up the cadence is that you need to use more of your muscular system. What that means is that when you have a lower cadence, there's much more stress on your cardiovascular system and also your muscular system. When that happens, your muscles get fatigued much faster, it's harder to recover, and the last part, but most importantly, is that there's higher risk of injury. mostly especially on your knee. Okay, so again, going back to the question, well, so what cadence should I use? Well, again, when you're doing your training, you have a purpose on each workout. You want to hit different energy systems wherein you're not always going for the higher cadence. All right, so you want to also be able to be much stronger and be able to be okay riding on a lower cadence. So that's what the cadence is for. We'll talk more about it because cadence is not the only thing that would actually help you get faster. Till next time. It's loud. All right, so let's do it again.